On this episode of Doing the Most, we are making a beginner recipe. This is our white grape juice pyment. The recipes in this beginner series come from my book, You Can Make Mead. It's available on my website at doingthemost.org/book or on Amazon's Kindle store. Right now, it's on sale for $9.99. And it includes 20 beginner-friendly recipes for 1-gallon batches. This is a pyment that I've made before. I think I made it before on the channel. It's just a great table mead, something that's great to serve with fish, just have on the table at dinner. It is important that when you're buying your juice for this mead to get 100% juice with no preservatives. You're trying to find something that doesn't have sodium benzoate or potassium metabisulfite, anything like that that's going to prevent your yeast from getting off to a good start with fermentation. This mead also uses orange blossom honey, and you want to find a good orange blossom honey for this so that way some of that pithy, orange zesty flavor comes through in the finished mead. Orange blossom is the perfect honey choice for this recipe, but if for whatever reason you can't find orange blossom, just using a nice clover or wildflower honey will work just fine. So, before we get started making this, let's take a look at the ingredients. The ingredients for this white grape pyment are 0.9 gallons of white grape juice, 1.2 pounds of orange blossom honey, 1 gram of wine tannin, a thumbnail-sized sliver of grapefruit peel, a thumbnail-sized sliver of lemon peel, and Lalvin's K1V1116 yeast. We are also going to be using 4.5 grams of Fermade O as our nutrient. And for back sweetening, I recommend 3 ounces of honey. You probably noticed that there's a couple of interesting ingredients in there, one being just a little tiny pieces of peel from a lemon and from a grapefruit. Those are in there just to provide a little bit of nuance. It's almost where you wouldn't know they were there, except when they're missing, I notice it. You kind of want it in there to complement the grape juice. Also in there is tannin. The tannin powder in this recipe is just wine tannin from the homebrew shop. It's made of ground up chestnut, and it's there to provide a little bit of staying power to the mouthfeel, to make sure that this mead really kind of hangs around and lets you taste the full scope of this white grape pyment. There's also some nutrients in here. We are using Fermade O, and I'm doing 3 additions of Fermade O. These are each 1.5 gram additions of Fermade O, and that just makes sure that your yeast has the right nutrients that it needs to get the fermentation job done effectively and with minimizing of off flavors. It is important to make sure all of your gear and equipment is sanitized. You'll see my bucket of sanitizer ever present throughout this video and this series. I use Starzan, which is an acid-based, no-rinse sanitizer. You really want to keep sanitizer on hand and use it to sanitize any of the gear that's going to come in contact with your mead, because you want the only microbe in your mead to be the yeast that you have put in there, and sanitizer will help obliterate most of the other microbes in the area. That's bacteria, wild yeast, mold spores, to hopefully ensure that none of that stuff gets into your mead. To begin with, our honey is already funneled into the bottom of our carboy. We're just going to start adding some ingredients. So first up is our tannin. Then we'll add our citrus peels. First goes our lemon peel, and we'll follow that up with our grapefruit peel. These just add a little bit of nuance. Then with our sanitized funnel, we will pour in half of our grape juice. Once that's done, we'll put a sanitized stopper on there and give it a good shake to oxygenate, as well as mix in our honey. Then we'll put in our yeast and the remainder of our grape juice, and you'll have just a little bit of grape juice left over. We're going to fill that up to the 1 gallon mark. We'll put our stopper back in, put our airlock on, and we'll fill that with either sanitizer or vodka, and that'll act as a valve to keep any microbes in the air out of your mead, as well as let fermentation gases escape. At the 24, 48, and 72 hour marks, we will put in 1.5 grams each of Fermade O as our yeast nutrient. This here is an auto siphon. You're gonna see it a few times throughout this video and really throughout this series. It's what I used to rack my mead from one vessel to the next. Basically, you elevate your mead above the vessel that you're racking to, put the siphon in there, put the tubing in the vessel you're racking to, and then you just pump this a couple of times. It starts a vacuum, which sucks the mead up, and then gravity does the rest, transferring it down into that other vessel. And then we're going to use our auto siphon to get this transferred from primary into secondary. This will help off-gas some of the leftover gas that's in suspension in there, as well as leave the gross lees behind. We want to leave that sediment in the primary fermentation vessel. You may need to tip that in order to make sure you get every last drop out of there. And a check of our gravity with the hydrometer shows that it's just below 1.000. So we're gonna stabilize this mead because I wanna use honey to back sweeten it. And if we just put honey in there without any stabilizing, the yeast would ferment the honey and then it would still not be sweet. So we add potassium sorbate and potassium metabisulfite, which is those little Campden tablets. You use those two in tandem to stabilize the mead. Potassium sorbate, you're gonna use a half a teaspoon per gallon, and for potassium metabisulfite, you just use one Campden tablet, crush all that up, put it directly in, and then just wait 24 hours, and you can back sweeten without worrying that your yeast are gonna eat the honey that you've back sweetened with. So we'll be adding in our stabilizers, and then 12 to 24 hours later, we'll come back and we will add our back sweetening honey. So here we are about 12 hours later, and I heated up the honey a little bit to make it easier to mix in, and we're just pouring that right in, and we'll give it a gentle stir to combine. Stir, stir, stir. And then we'll put the airlock back on there, and we'll put it in the refrigerator for a few days so it can cold crash. Once that clears up, we are ready to bottle. When bottling, I'm using a bottling wand which attaches to the end of the tubing for your racking system. The bottling wand has a valve on the end of it. So as you're racking through your racking system into the bottling wand and pressing that down in the bottom of the bottle, it opens up and fills the bottle from the bottom, which minimizes oxygen exposure. This helps reduce the risk of oxidization in the bottle after you've bottled your mead, and it's a super important piece of gear. If you don't have a bottling wand, grab one. They're just a few bucks. So I'm just using my auto siphon and bottling wand to get this bottled. This made about 9 bottles of white grape pyment, and I'm using crown caps with beer bottles here. You could use regular wine bottles or flip top bottles to store this. It's really gonna hit its stride at about 6 months to a year, so you wanna use a good closure to put that back to age. Like I said, there are 20 recipes in my book, and this is just one of those 20. And so I enjoyed sharing it with you here today. Now I'm gonna enjoy drinking a sample with you. Nice golden color on that. And it smells like grape juice. I don't want you to fall under the impression that this is gonna taste like a Chardonnay or a Pinot Grigio. We're making this with grapes that are table grapes, essentially. White grape juice is usually Niagara. I like to use juicy juice because it's got big aromatics. And this, even on the other end of fermentation, still preserves a lot of those big, juicy, fruity aromatics. And paired with the orange blossom honey, that works really well. Super good. Not too acidic. Really nice lingering tannin that's not gritty or astringent. It just clings. It just holds that grapey flavor onto your tongue. It's all grape juice on the front, nice winey character, but you still know that you're drinking Niagara grape. And then right up in the back, you get hit with honey, particularly this orange blossom honey really kind of shoots through. So you're getting grape wine on the front and then honey on the back, and it's a really nice kind of wombo combo of flavors. And it's drinkable super young. This here was bottled at about 4 weeks, and it's drinkable now in 6 months. It's gonna be fabulous. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. And if so, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. And I hope you all are enjoying the book as much as I enjoyed putting it together for you. Until next time, happy brewing and cheers.
Homemade brews and berries are knows everything from mead to roast. Bake creation, fermentation, inebriation, doing the most.